Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. Good morning, everyone. Come on, you can do better than that. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Awesome. Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming and welcome to this session, which is called My Treasure and Me. But the me in this title is not me, Alex the speaker, but it's basically each and every one of you. So it's you and your treasure. Now, this is not going to be a talk as in, one-way direction. I would like this to be more like an interaction or a dialogue. But of course, I also understand that not every one of you feels comfortable speaking up in a session like this. And so that is what the Post-its and the pens are for. So don't worry, we will not do brainstorming, we will not do workshops of group works or anything like that. Think of it as your notebook. So if you have something you want to write down, take it, grab it, and write it on your Post-its. Then, here comes the first question. What is the first thing you think of when you hear the word treasure? Grab your Post-it, write it down. Don't think too much, just the first thing that comes to your brain. There is no right, no wrong. You don't have to share it with anyone. You can also sketch a thing. Okay. Now, I will show you mine. This is what comes in my head when I hear the word treasure. Who has the same? Interesting, but not everyone has the same, right? So I'm actually interested, why is it that this is the first thing that came into my mind? And then I thought, maybe it's because of my mother tongue. So I come from Indonesia, and the word treasure, when it's translated to Indonesian language, it is called harta karun. Now, the first word, harta, means wealth or valuables. But if you put it together with karun, it becomes treasure, which means a pile of gold, jewelry, this pirate treasure kind of chest. And I thought maybe it's also because in Indonesian language, we don't use the word treasure to describe anything else. So for us, treasure is that, the pile of gold. We don't use it like in English, you say oh, I treasure something. We don't say, you are my treasure. We don't use that. It is different in other language, definitely. Who speaks German? Who knows the word treasure in German?
Schatz.
Yes, Schatz. And now, if you do Google image search for the word Schatz, this is what you get. So as you can see, half of it is the pirate treasure chest, and half of it is hard. And why is that? You probably know, because Schatz is also a way for people to call their loved one. You are my Schatz. It's equal to, in English, like sweetheart, honey, darling. So when we go back to the English word treasure, let's ask the dictionary about the description of the word. So a treasure a treasure as a noun can be wealth, money, jewels, precious metals, stored up or hoarded, so it's a pile, right? It could be a collection of precious things. It could be something of great worth or value. It could also be a person esteemed as rare or precious. So basically, depending on who you are, it can be anything. It is very, very subjective. So what treasure means to you, it depends on yourself. Now I will come to the next question. What is it that you think is your treasure? You can grab your Post-it again, write some things down. Don't think too long. Usually the first thing that comes to your mind is your treasure. You can take a couple of moments to write down. And again, there's no right, there's no wrong. Your treasure is yours. All right. Now, what did you write? Who wrote an object? No one. Oh, okay, one person. Oh, like I said, no right or no wrong, right? I was just surprised that nobody wrote an object. Okay, who wrote a person? Who wrote an experience? How about knowledge or skill? Awesome. Who wrote something else which is not listed here? Relationship. Anything else? Awesome. All right. Who wrote down only one thing? Okay, so the rest of you wrote a lot, so more than one thing. Okay, that's also very interesting. So who wrote the same thing as you wrote in the beginning, like the first thing that came to your mind? Has anyone wrote it the same, like the same thing? No one. Oh, you also. Cool. Right. Then, let's go to the next step. Let's think about why is it your treasure? So you wrote it down. Now take some moment and think about why is it that this thing, this person, the relationship, the knowledge and everything is your treasure? All right. So this is the things that I came up with. Like, why could something or someone be a treasure? It could have high value, or it could be something rare. It could be that it has value to you because it is something that you experience with it, or it makes you feel a certain thing. Or it is probably also your dependency to it. You cannot live without it for whatever reason that is valid to you. It could also be because of the memory that it serves you. And it could also be something, it is because it has made you the person you are now, the person you are today. Who wrote something which is not on the list? Okay, this time nobody wrote anything else. Right. Now, the next one, this is the last part of the first part. I would like to ask you, how do you treat your treasure currently? So all the things that you wrote down, and now you know that these are important to you because of this reason. How have you been treating your treasure so far? So what did you write down? I was thinking, let's say it's an object. For example, there are two options that you can do. You could keep it safe. You don't use it in fear of breaking it. Or you could use it frequently to feel the joy every time. I have a friend who inherited a set of tea service from her grandma. And she's also she always I don't want to use this daily. This is it's a thin, very fine porcelain, and she doesn't want to use it every day. She only uses it for special occasions. And another friend has a cup that she loves so much, and she really wants to use it every day. Like every morning, she grabs the coffee cup, she drinks coffee from it, and she feels I feel like the day is going to be very well because I'm drinking coffee from my favorite mug. If it's an experience, you could hide it. Like this experience, not an experience, but like knowledge or skill, you could hide it, keep it for yourself, because this knowledge and skill is something that make you a valuable person. So you don't want, you want to keep it secret. You don't want to share it with anyone. Or it's the other way around. You share it with everyone, so everyone can also take part of it. So everyone can, so it's like you can spread the joy, or you can see it as your legacy. How about when it's a person? How have you been treating your treasure person? Would you want to keep them away from harm? You shield them from the whole horror of the world? Would you dare tell them things that they should hear, but they actually don't want to hear? How have you been treating them? Of course, everything is valid. So however it is that you've been treating your treasure, this room is not meant for you to judge yourself. So it's not like, oh, that is true. I should have been treating my treasures the other way. It's not for that. It's just the room to acknowledge, so this is how I've been, so this is my treasure, this is why they are my treasure, and this is how I've been treating them. And everything's fine. Now that I've asked you, I've walked you through this exercise, it's only fair if I also share mine, right? So, what do you think is my treasure? It's very easy. One of my treasures in the world is my Instagram feed. So I don't know whether you have Instagram or how you use your Instagram, but I use my Instagram as a photo diary. It's basically a documentation of my life. I took picture of things I do, places I went to, things I created, and also things that just interest me. Why is it my treasure? It is because it helps me to remember who I am and what's been going on in my life. Especially on dark times, when I feel like I've done nothing, like I'm a failure, I have done nothing in my life. I just have to look at my Instagram and I see, that's not true. You've been creating this, you've been creating that. You've cooked a lot of things, you've created a lot of artworks, you've been to places. And especially during the pandemic, when you feel like the time stops and like nothing happens in your life, my Instagram feed really helps me to look back and see my life was really colorful. Even in the pandemic's time, I went through the streets around my neighborhood, which I would never have found if it wasn't the pandemic, because I wouldn't think of going through all these small alleys around my neighborhoods. And I will not meet all the cats in the neighborhoods, which I always take photo of and tag with the hashtag cats we don't own, because I don't own a cat. So I just, take random pictures of random cats, give them names and put them into my Instagram without their owners knowing, right? So that's why. So it's to look back and to remind myself, life is good. Life is colorful. It's not true that everything is bleak, regardless of what I am actually feeling at the moment. And how have been I treating this? As you can see, this is a living Instagram feed, right? So I've been feeding it with posts on weekly basis, at least. And I share with my friends and especially my families who are still in Indonesia. So especially my parents. So if they don't know, even if we don't talk very often, but they can just take a look at my Instagram feed and know, our daughter is doing well. And one thing, what I need to do with my treasure is I need to back it up. So if anyone knows how to back Instagram up, a picture and caption, please tell me. I don't know how. I need to do it, because if it's gone, then I will be very, very sad. I would lose my treasure. Speaking of losing treasure, have you ever had something that was your treasure, but then it's not your treasure anymore? Think about it. Something that might have lost the value as your treasure. Or maybe it was at some point replaced by something better. Maybe you lost interest of it. Or you've outgrown the treasure. Do you have something like that? You can write it down, you don't have to, but take a moment to think about it. So in my case, I will tell you a story about something that I've outgrown. Who was an early teenager around end of the 80s and in the early 90s? So now you know more or less how old is Andreas and me, right? Okay, so I don't know about other countries, but in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta, where I come from, like around like late 80s, like 89, 90, there was a trend, at least in my school, which is this. Okay, not this, not this. So not the colorful outfit and everything. Right? What I mean is the shoes, the shoes. So anyone knows the brand LA Gear? Probably not, right? I don't know if it's even popular outside of America and Asia, maybe, I'm not sure. But basically, LA Gear is a brand for street basketball shoes. So it's not for, it's not for sport. And they look more or less like when you marry a white basketball sneaker with Barbie, they look like that. And it was a trend at my school. Like every girl want to have a pair. The thing is, my school uses uniform. And it looks like this. So long checkered skirt that needs to cover the knee, right? And this picture is actually not correct. So usually, at least at my time, the socks needs to be also as high as the knee. So you actually don't see any skin on your legs. Now imagine it would look actually very strange and not really suitable if you combine the sneakers with the uniform. But who cares, right? So the girls were begging their parents, like, come on, mom, please buy me this. And the parents would be like, what is that? And they would be like, you know that your school uniform only allows white sneakers, blue sneakers, and black sneakers? And the girls would be like, it's white, like most of it is white. I mean, come on, like most of it is white, right? Of course, it has the pink element on it, like it's the most important thing of having an LA Gear, right? But as you can see, right, so even with lights, and this is like the ultimate, like those laces, like we all wanted that. We all wanted that. And also the bling, right? And of course, I hope you realize that I've totally outgrown this trend, right? So it was my treasure. I used to wear it every day to school, but not anymore. Okay, so that was for outgrowing a treasure. On another note, there are other possibilities how a treasure can cease to be a treasure. For example, something bad could happen. Your treasure could be lost in a fire, or a nature disaster, a flood, or earthquake, or war. I mean, anything bad could happen, right? I mean, of course, you don't want that to happen, but the fact is, this thing can happen. And when it happens, you might lose your treasure. Of course, it could also be stolen, or it could be broken. Now, when you think about this, and you think about your treasure, how would that change how you will be treating your treasure from now on? Thinking that all of this could happen. And this is only the part that the treasure itself ceased to be your treasure, right? There's one more thing. One thing that we all know, but we usually don't want to talk about. Dum dum. That one day, we're all gonna die. No exception, unfortunately. Who has heard about the term memento mori? So memento mori is used in Stoicism and in Stoic philosophy to remain aware that one day we will die. Remember that you will die. You know that humans are the only species on Earth who actually aware of that they will die someday. I mean, there are other like animals that think when they feel that death is approaching, they kind of separate themselves from the pack and then they find a quiet place to go die alone. But they know they will die just shortly before, right? But humans are the only species on Earth who actually know that someday, at one point, we don't know when, that we're going to die. And in a sense, this is actually a blessing. Why is it a blessing? Because it makes us think that we need to cherish our life as long as we can, as long as we have the time on Earth. Now, again, after I put this bomb on this room, how would you think about the way you've been treating your treasure, or how you're going to treat your treasure from now on, knowing that, of course, someday you're going to die? When we die, we take nothing with us, not a single thing, not the object, not all the knowledge, not the fame and the things that we achieved, and also not the person that we love. We can only believe that we will be rejoined with the people we love in afterlife, if you believe that. But as long as we're still alive, we don't know whether we will meet this person again or not. So you might think, ooh, this topic is really heavy, it's so early in the morning, I just had my coffee and Alex is talking about death, you know, and it's fine. I mean, not everyone wants to be confronted with death. I'm used to it because I'm a Stoic, but not everyone is, you know, feel ready to actually think about death and what happens after, or what happens with the thing that you leave behind. But I would encourage you, if you don't want to think about it now, think about it later. At some point in time when you feel calm, when you have, you know, when everything is quiet, you can think about what you do with your treasure when you leave this earth. Now, the last thing, I would like to leave you with a quote from a dear friend of ours, my husband and I. He passed away in 2017, I believe, and he was around 35 or 40 years older than us. He had a wife, his wife passed away, and then at some point, he had a new partner. And sometimes after that, we met him. And for him, we were, you know, like a young couple. Back then, we were not married yet. And then we were chatting. I don't remember what we talked about, but at some point, he looked at us with a very, very, you know, like loving gaze. And then he turned to my husband and he said, you know what? Before you go to bed tonight, take a good look at her. Look at her in the eyes. Caress her nose, and be thankful for another day you could spend with her. And that is how this friend of ours had been treating his partner. And this is also how I will treat mine. Thank you.